Hey guys, just wanted to show off the car. The body itself has been painted and polished, and the hood and the trunk still have to be sanded down, and we got to paint the stripes on some of the other parts to finish those up. But it's coming along really good, and I'm excited to show this off to you guys. So we're in the stage of just finishing this up. We're starting to put some of the accessories on it. We've got the taillights are going in it. We're going to paint the dash here next week, and then we're going to start installing the air conditioning and firewall pads. And this project should really be coming along nice and start really moving along quickly. And this video itself, I wanted to show you guys some of the steps. We'll do a fast motion video just on how we got to this stage. But in addition to this video, I'm going to do very detailed videos. Some of those videos and what we're going to talk about is how I was able to get these gaps absolutely perfect. That's something I really strive for in all my cars, is to have the gaps absolutely perfect, like they're cut out like a laser. And then also as far as down the side of the car, having it perfectly straight. So we did some metal working here on the door. I'm going to show, we're going to do a video on that. These are fiberglass reproduction pieces, and they fit horribly when they're brand new. So I'm going to show you a trick that I did to get these to fit. This piece and this piece here to fit. We got a video, we're going to do a video on the trunk and the weather stripping, put the weather stripping in, and all the processes that are going to go along with this car, and some of the other projects that we got in the shop. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this video and seeing the steps on how we got here. These images are going back to when we first started the car. We took all the metal down to the floorboard and the firewall. From there we started adding the conversion kit and putting the sheet metal together. All the sheet metal was put on the car to test the fitment and to check the gaps. And all the glass was test fit to make sure there would be no issues as the car went together. The new metal panels for the conversion kit come in weld-through primer. I don't really like the weld-through primer for the exterior of the car where it's going to be painted, and I don't trust it for the base coat. So the car will be stripped down to bare metal, so I can put a base of epoxy to start the foundation for the paint and body work. The black coating on most of the reproduction parts is an EDP coating, or electronically deposited coating. It's a durable coating and it's very similar to epoxy. The doors and the fenders on this car came with the car, and they have been sitting for quite a long time. The EDP coating can be broken down by sunlight since it has no UV protection built into it. If you let these panels sit out in the environment or even in a garage for long periods of time and they get chips or nicks in them, it can start rust, and the rust will then start to spider, which means it will start to crawl up under the coating of any paint. And once you get spidering started, you can't stop it. So this car did have chips with rust in it, and it did have spidering, so that's why we're stripping it all down to bare metal, so that all the metal can be put into epoxy. The hood and trunk lid for this car are both fiberglass, and they're both metal framed underneath, giving us the most structural support we can have. Fiberglass panels, when you get them, have a lot of waves in them. It takes a significant amount of work to get them to be perfectly flat. The fiberglass gel coat was initially sanded to give the body filler something to stick to. And then there's a small skim coat of body filler that's put on the hood. And then everything is block sanded to get it as perfectly straight as possible. Here Amanda is working on the front headlight bucket, trying to make sure that the bucket fits along with the fender lines perfectly. And then the gap between the headlight bucket and the fender is also checked to make sure it's a consistent gap all the way around. Here's an example of a gap that needs to be fixed. The gap starting at the top of the door working all the way down about 3/4 of the way is perfect. And as it gets towards the bottom, it starts to get tighter. You got to remember we're using all reproduction parts on this build. So this is just going to be a small example of how we're fixing the gaps on the door. The first step is to mark it and then to cut back the metal to open up the gap. And then once that gap is cut, we got to weld it. This is the repaired gap with the welds ground down. A lot of the reproduction rear valance panels are short. This one was short on both ends. It had a large gap. So to fix this gap, we're inserting a piece of metal and welding that in. At this phase, the car has been stripped of bare metal, put in epoxy primer, and has had body work and primer in repeated stages. This is the last few stages where the car is getting blocked with long board files to make sure it is as straight as possible. The use of a guide coat, which is the black film that you see on the panel, helps to show high and low spots and spots that need to be worked. Here we're using an automotive urethane seam sealer. The seam sealer is going to be applied in all of the new metal gaps and panels that can be exposed to moisture or allow moisture to get into the vehicle. So this is a fun stage that the car is in. We're getting it painted, we're starting to put new parts back on it, and I hope you guys follow along to see where we go and where we take this car. Thanks for watching.
See you soon.
See you soon.